Hello, thank you for joining with me. We are in A Course in Miracles workbook for students, part 1 of the workbook. We are on lesson 162. I am as God created me. This single thought, held firmly in the mind, would save the world. From time to time we will repeat it as we reach another stage in learning. Footnote 309. This lesson shows up again in the central thought of Review 6, which is lessons 201 to 220, and occurs in modified form in lesson 237. Now would I be as God created me, and 260. Let me remember God created me. It was also the idea for the day in lessons 94 and 110. It will mean far more to you as you advance. These words are sacred, for they are the words God gave in answer to the world you made. By them it disappears, and all things seen within its misty clouds and vaporous illusions vanish as these words are spoken, for they come from God. Here is the word by which the Son of God became his Father's happiness, his love, and his completion. Here creation is proclaimed and honored as it is. There is no dreams these words will not dispel, no thought of sin, and no illusion that the dream contains that will not fade away before their might. They are the trumpet of awakening that sounds around the world. Footnote 310. 1 Corinthians 15, 51 to 52. Lo, I tell you a mystery. We shall not all sleep, but we shall all be changed in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trumpet. For the trumpet will sound, and the dead will be raised imperishable, and we shall be changed. The above passage says that the words, I am as God created me, are the trumpet that sounds around the world and raises all sleepers from death into life. The dead awake in answer to its call, and those who live and hear this sound will never look on death. Footnote 311. John 8:51. Truly, truly, I say to you, if anyone keeps my word, he will never see death. In the above allusion, it is those who accept the truth of I am as God created me who will never see death. Holy indeed is he who makes these words his own, arising with them in his mind, recalling them throughout the day, at night bringing them with him as he goes to sleep. His dreams are happy and his rest secure, his safety certain and his body healed, because he sleeps and wakens with the truth before him always. He will save the world, because he gives the world what he receives each time he practices the words of truth. Today we practice simply, for the words we use are mighty, and they need no thoughts beyond themselves to change the mind of him who uses them. So wholly is it changed that it is now the treasury in which God places all his gifts and all his love, to be distributed to all the world, increased in giving, kept complete because its sharing is unlimited. And thus you learn to think with God. Christ's vision has restored your sight by salvaging your mind. We honor you today. Yours is the right to perfect holiness you now accept. With this acceptance is salvation brought to everyone. For who could cherish sin when holiness like this has blessed the world? Who could despair when perfect joy is yours, available to all as remedy for grief and misery, all sense of loss, and the complete escape from sin and guilt? And who would not be brother to you now, you, his Redeemer and his Savior? Who could fail to welcome you into his heart with loving invitation, eager to unite with one like him in holiness? You are as God created you. These words dispel the night, and darkness is no more. The light is come today to bless the world, for you have recognized the Son of God, and in your recognition is the world's. This is the commentary by Robert Perry and Alan Watson on Lesson 162 for June 11th. I am as God created me. The purpose of this lesson is to accept the perfect holiness that is your right, to recognize the Son of God in you, and thereby bring this acceptance and recognition to everyone. So you practice at least 5 minutes, ideally 30 or more. Spend this time in deep meditation. Let the power of these sacred words, I am as God created me, carry you to the place in your mind where you experience the self that God created as you. You might want to begin this meditation by reviewing the various images you hold of yourself, stating each one in the form, I see myself as, and letting each one go by, affirming, but I am as God created me. So remember, for 1 or 2 minutes as the hour strikes, dwell on the idea and let it carry your mind to stillness. Then thank your Father for his gifts in the hour gone by, and ask for his guidance for the hour to come. I recommend making a conscious decision to steep your mind in these words today. I write them on my hand sometimes. Begin the day with them and end the day with them, and try to keep them with you all the time in between. Sometimes I'll get a Sharpie too and put a G right there on my hand so I can see it all throughout my day. My husband's making fun of me. That's okay. So, if you do, you will experience their power to uplift your condition. They can transform your mind into the treasure house in which all of God's gifts are stored, ready for you to distribute them to the world. Today's lesson assumes that your understanding of this idea has deepened, for whereas in earlier occurrences, such as 94 and 110, you were given additional lines to repeat. This lesson says this lesson says you need no extra thoughts to draw out its meaning. No tissue, boo-boo. Sorry. Commentary. For the third time, we encounter as the main thought of a lesson what may be the single most repeated thought in the course. The first 2 lessons were 94 and 110. The idea was featured in 93 as well. The phrase, as God created, occurs 105 times in the course. We will see it as a focus of our workbook review period in another 20 lessons. Why is this idea so important and repeated so often? This single thought held firmly in the mind would save the world. In the text, our entire spiritual journey is characterized in terms of this idea. You but emerge from an illusion of what you are to the acceptance of yourself as God created you. If these statements are true, it is reason enough to memorize this idea and repeat it over and over until it becomes part of our pattern of thought. We might say that the entire course is aimed at nothing more and nothing less than bringing us to the point where we hold this thought firmly in our minds. In paragraph 4, our practice for the day is described as a very simple practice. All we need are the words of the main idea. They need no thoughts beyond themselves to change the mind of him who uses them. The change of mind the Course aims at is simply the acceptance of ourselves as God created us. By focusing on this thought, meditating on it, repeating it, and chewing it over in our minds, we accelerate this change of mind. And thus you learn to think with God. Christ's vision has restored your sight by salvaging your mind. In Lesson 93, there was a useful addition to the words that helped to clarify their meaning for me. Salvation requires the acceptance of but one thought. You are as God created you, not what you made of yourself. Whatever evil you may think you did, you are as God created you. Whatever mistakes you made, the truth about you is unchanged. Creation is eternal and unalterable. And that's from the workbook, page 193. Part 1, Lesson 93. We are not what we made of ourselves. Our mistakes have not changed the truth about us. That is what accepting this idea means, the recognition that nothing we have done has been able to alter our relationship to God in the slightest, nor to change our nature given us by God in creation. Our most shameful acts, the thoughts we would never want exposed to the world, have, none of them, changed God's creation in the slightest. There is no reason for guilt, no cause to shrink from God in fear. Our imagined sins have had no effect. We are still safe and complete and healed and whole. How are we to use this thought? Holy indeed is he who makes these words his own, arising with them in his mind, recalling them throughout the day, at night bringing them with him as he goes to sleep. It reminds me of the words written about the words of God in the Old Testament. And thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children, and shalt talk of them when thou sittest in thine house, and when thou walkest by the way, and when thou liest down, and when thou risest up. I think that's Deuteronomy 6:7. Did I say that right? In other words, make them a part of your entire life, especially on rising in the morning and when going to bed. I did a separate meditation for lesson from 151, I believe, to 170. A 15-minute meditation if you'd like to partake in that. To acknowledge that I am as God created me is to recognize the Son of God. It is to be free of guilt. It is to know the innocence of every living thing. It is to acknowledge God as perfect creator. It is to release the past. It is to forgive the world. In these words is everything we need. I am as God created me. Thank you for joining with me. I love you.